Today we are going to take up Crossing the Bar by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Tennyson, as you all know, was a very popular poet of the Victorian age, and he wrote this poem Crossing the Bar in the year 1889, 3 years before he died. Now, what happened was that Tennyson fell seriously ill, and he was actually anticipating his death. He thought that he is going to die now. And while he was thinking about his death, he wrote this poem Crossing the Bar, and over here he has actually expressed his thoughts that how his soul will be, will enter the life after death. Fine. So he has expressed his thoughts and his feelings in a metaphorical way in this poem. So you have to understand the poem both ways, on the literal level also and on the metaphorical level also. फाइन नाउ टेनिसन ने कहा है, टेनिसन ने एक्चुअली कंपेयर किया है एक मेटाफोरिकल वे में। टेनिसन ने अपने सोल को कंपेयर किया है एक शिप के साथ। ओके, शिप इज अ मेटाफर फॉर द सोल। सो ही सेज, जिस तरह से एक शिप जो है वो अपने हार्बर से निकलकर एक डीप ओशन की तरफ जाती है, उसी तरह से ये जो हमारा सोल है, आफ्टर डेथ इट अप्रोचेस और इट मूव्स टुवर्ड्स द अननोन वर्ल्ड, towards the metaphysical world. Okay, and how the soul will enter this unknown world, Tennyson has discussed it over here. So you can say that the whole structure of the poem is actually metaphorical. एक शिप जो है, जिस तरह से सैंड बार आपको पता होगा, ओशन के किनारे सैंड्स के कुछ रिजेस होते हैं, वो बन जाते हैं। सो जिस तरह से एक शिप जो है एक सैंड बार को क्रॉस करके एक एक डीप ओशन की तरफ चला जाता है, उसी तरह से हमारा जो सोल है, व्हेन वी डाई, और टेनिसन सेज व्हेन ही इज गोइंग टू डाई हिज सोल विल एक्चुअली डिपार्ट from this life, and then it is going to enter the next life. So यहाँ पर metaphor क्या है? The ship is actually the metaphor for his soul, and the sandbar जो है, the ridge, the sandbar is the metaphor for the boundary between life and death. Okay, so while the ship is crossing the ridge and the sandbar and entering the deep ocean, the soul is actually crossing the boundary between life and death, and the soul is going on a journey towards the eternal abode. Okay, ये चीज यहाँ पर टेनिसन ने डिस्कस किया. So the whole structure of the poem is metaphorical. Fine. So now we come directly to the poem and we'll take the poem line by line. See, in the first line he says, sunset and evening star. Now, sunset over here is a representation. Again, the poem, as I told you, that the poem is metaphorical. So we have to understand. See, sunset over here actually means the end of life. ओके, जिस तरह से दिन जो है जब ढल जाता है और सूरज जो है वो सेट होने लगता है, सन जो है जो वो सेट होता है, उसी तरह से यहाँ पर इन द मेटाफोरिकल वे वी कैन से दैट द सन ऑफ लाइफ इज डिसेंडिंग, द सन ऑफ लाइफ इज गोइंग टू सेट. ओके, द सन of Tenson's life is going to set now. So sunset, that means the end of life, and the evening star, and one clear call for me. Evening star is actually over here referred to Hesperus, okay? And why? Just because Hesperus is associated with calmness that comes at the close of the day. फाइन. जिस तरह से क्या कहते हैं, जब अंधेरा हो जाता है, जब क्या कहते हैं सूरज डूब जाता है, तो जो तारा हेस्पेरस दिखाई देता है, दैट इज associated with calmness and sweetness. सो यहाँ पर एक्चुअली टेनिसन वांट्स टू से कि डेथ जो है, जब इंसान इस दुनिया से चला जाता है, तो डेथ इज एक्चुअली very it gives us a very calm feeling. Okay, it is very calm and it's very relaxing. So he says sunset and evening star. So the sun of life has set and there is evening star, there is calmness, and one clear call for me. One clear call means, clear call over here is death. Death की पुकार है, क्योंकि दिन का सूरज ढल चुका है, तो death is calling out to him. Death is calling out to Tennyson. Okay, and one clear call for me, and may there be no mourning of the bar when I put out to sea. So he says, may there be no mourning of the bar. First, underline mourning of the bar and write down murmur of the sea. Okay, and then when I put out to sea, write down over there journey to the unknown world. Journey to the unknown world. See, he is actually over here saying both ways, try to understand the metaphorical way and the literal way. He is actually saying when the ship will start the journey towards the sea, जब ship जो है अपना journey sea की तरफ शुरू करेगी तो sea जो है वो stormy और rough नहीं होना चाहिए, because अगर stormy होगा, roughness होगी sea में और लहरें जो है तेजी से अगर उठेंगी तो it will be difficult for the ship to cross the bar. Is that clear? और अगर इसको मेटाफोरिकल वे में देखा जाए तो मेटाफोरिकल वे में ही वांट्स टू से दैट व्हाइल आई एम एंटरिंग माय इटर्नल लाइफ, व्हाइल माय सोल इज डिपार्टिंग, आई वांट देयर शुड बी अटर पीस एंड साइलेंस and there should be calmness. There should be no hustle bustle. Okay, this he wants to say. That is why he says, and may there be no mourning of the bar when I put out to sea. I, he is actually the soul, will be departing towards the unknown world. Okay, next paragraph. But such a tide as moving seems asleep. So अगेन ऑन द लिटरल लेवल ये क्या कहना चाह रहे हैं, लिटरल लेवल पे ही इज सेइंग कि ऐसी टाइड्स होनी चाहिए जो कि करंट जिनका फोर्सफुल रहे, करंट जो है फोर्सफुल रहे, बट द वाटर शुड बी स्टिल, उसके अंदर वो हसल बसल जो होती है वो नहीं होना चाहिए. एज मूविंग सीम्स अस्लीप, अस्लीप इज मीन्स स्मूथनेस एंड कामनेस. अगर रिज जो है वो सबमर्ज रहेगा पानी के नीचे, सैंड बार जो है वो पानी के नीचे अगर सबमर्ज रहेगा तो इट विल बी वेरी इजियर फॉर द शिप टू सेल. शिप जो है वो हार्बर से निकल के जो है वो उधर चली जाएगी ओशन की तरफ, अगर सैंड बार जो है वो पानी के नीचे सबमर्ज्ड है. तो उसी तरह से टेनिसन इज एक्चुअली सेइंग कि जिस टाइम व्हेन आई एम डाइंग और द डेथ विल टेक प्लेस, there should be no chaos, there should be no confusion, there should be no crying, there should be no sadness, because while I am leaving, because I am leaving for the good. Okay, there should be no crying and there should be no sadness of farewell जो वो आगे कहेंगे. He says, but such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full for sound and foam. Too full means too deep. And sound and foam को आप लिख सकते हैं roaring waves. Okay, so it should be too full for the sound and foam. When that which drew from the boundless deep turns home again. When that यहाँ पर क्या है? Ship है. Okay, boundless deep is the infinite ocean. Now try to understand again both ways. He is saying ship कहाँ से आई है? Ship आई है from the sea. हार्बर पर वो आई है एक वक्त के लिए एंड उसके बाद वो रिटर्न कर जाएगी. द शिप विल रिटर्न टुवर्ड्स द सी. तो जिस टाइम शिप जो है वो सी की तरफ रिटर्न कर रही है, टर्न्स होम अगेन, वो जहां से आई है जब वो वहीं पर रिटर्न कर रही है, तो देयर शुड बी नो साउंड एंड फोम. ओके, वहां पर जो है chaos एंड confusion नहीं होना चाहिए. इट शुड बी वेरी स्मूथली, इट शुड बी डन स्मूथली एंड वेरी कामली. सो मेटाफोरिकल वे में क्या है, we are all from God, the soul is actually from God, so the soul is returning to God. Fine, try to understand this. Tennyson wants to say that we are all from God, the soul is from God, so the soul is actually going back from where it came. So there should be no crying, there should be no sadness of farewell. जो जहां से आया वहां जा रहा है, शिप ओशन की तरफ से आई थी वो वहीं लौट रही है. तो जिस तरह से हमारा सोल जो है, द सोल केम फ्रॉम गॉड, सोल इज रिटर्निंग टू गॉड, टर्न्स होम अगेन. दैट वाज द एक्चुअली द इटर्नल होम फॉर द सोल. सो देयर शुड बी नो सैडनेस ऑफ farewell, he is saying. Okay, then in the next paragraph he says twilight and evening bell. See, twilight again and evening bell, they are representation of the old age. In the first line only I told you that the sunset means the end of the day. Over here in the metaphorical sense, the sunset means the end of life. That means the sun of the life is setting. So twilight and evening bell, again evening bell is actually reference to the old age and the day's activity. Means the day's activity again is a symbolic, is metaphorical for the life's activity. जिंदगी की अब जो activities हैं वो अब खत्म हो चुकी हैं, अब अंधेरा छा रहा है, and we are going to the soul that the soul will be departing towards the unknown world. सो ट्वाइलाइट एंड इवनिंग बेल, शाम हो चुकी है, शाम हो चुकी है इन द सेंस कि अब शिप को भी वापस जाना है, एंड शाम हो चुकी है मतलब जिंदगी की भी शाम हो चुकी है, एंड द बेल इज देयर एंड वी हैव टू रिटर्न टू गॉड. एंड आफ्टर दैट द डार्क, आफ्टर दैट डार्क विल बी देयर, एंड may there be no sadness of farewell. May there be no sadness of farewell. So again, he's saying ki death is actually not a separation. Death is actually a union. Union with God, because the soul came from God and it is returning to God. So may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. When I embark, when I begin the journey. Now, on the literal level, you can say when the ship will embark the journey towards the ocean, it should be too, जो second paragraph में उसने बोला है, too full for sound and foam. It should be very smooth and calm. Okay, smooth and calm. जिस टाइम शिप जो है उधर एंटर करेगी टुवर्ड्स द ओशन, तो उसी तरह से व्हेन आई एम्बार्क, व्हेन द सोल विल एम्बार्क ऑन द इटर्नल जर्नी, देयर शुड बी नो सैडनेस ऑफ फेयरवेल. Now we come to the last para. For though from out of born of time and place, the flood may bear me far. So he's saying from out of born of time and place. Born, write down boundary. Time and place, write down the finite world, the limited world. See, this world is limited. If we see in relation to time and place, this is a finite world. But that world, the metaphysical world, the unknown world, that world is actually infinite, boundless, unlimited. वहां पर वक्त और टाइम दोनों नहीं होगा. वहां पर वक्त एंड टाइम कह रहे हैं, वहां पर वक्त और प्लेस, टाइम एंड प्लेस दोनों नहीं होगा. इज दैट क्लियर? सो ही इज सेइंग आउट ऑफ बॉर्न ऑफ टाइम एंड प्लेस द फ्लड में बेयर मी फ्लावर. फ्लड ओवर हियर आर द वेव्स. Okay, the waves are going to take me far. The flood may bear me far. Bear me far means carry away, far place. I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar. Pilot, again, pilot is a metaphor for God, because Tennyson believes in God, he wants to meet God, he wants to face God. So he says, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar. Cross the bar when I have died. Crossing the bar is actually symbolic of death only. So when I have crossed the bar, I want to meet my pilot. I want to meet and face God. So this is the poem Crossing the Bar. Fine. I hope you have understood. If you have not understood anything, you can ask in the comment box. Then let's discuss the theme. See, theme, as we all know by reading the poem, that the theme is first of all immortality of the soul. The soul is immortal. Okay, the soul never dies. The body perishes, but the soul is imperishable. Okay, the soul never dies. And the second thing is faith in God. Yes, it is very important because, as I told you in the beginning, Tennyson was a Victorian poet and he believed in God. So faith in God is a very important, uh, it's very important here in that aspect. Then we can say that death will enable him to meet God, whom he rightly calls his pilot. Okay, so these are the two themes, you can say, the immortality of the soul and faith in God. Next, the literary devices. Literary devices, we have already discussed the metaphor that the whole poem, the whole structure of the poem is metaphorical. Sunset and evening star भी हमने आपको बता दिया. It is actually metaphor. Sunset is a metaphor for the end of life, and evening star is a metaphor for calmness. Okay. Clear call is a metaphor for death, and pilot is a metaphor for God. Next figure of speech or literary device is in the poem, that is alliteration. What is alliteration? Alliteration is basically the repetition of the consonant sounds in a line. So over here alliteration is sunset and evening star. See, the SS sound is repeating. So this is alliteration. And one clear call for me. So CC, again, this is the alliteration. CC sound is repeating. Then we also have imageries over here. Sunset and evening star are visual imageries. We can imagine them. Okay, moaning of the bar, it is an auditory imagery. Auditory imagery is related to the sound. Moaning of the bar is actually the murmur of the sea. So it is auditory imagery. Twilight and evening bell, again, twilight and evening bell is both visual and auditory, because twilight is associated with visual, you can imagine, and the auditory is actually the evening bell, the sound. So this is all about the poem. If you want to ask anything else, you can ask in the comment box. Thank you.